The walrus operator, everyone's favourite topic of discussion. Assignment expressions, or the walrus operator more colloquially, was introduced all the way back in Python 3.8 and it was incredibly controversial at the time. A lot of this was down to the fact that people just didn't really understand it. They thought it was unnecessary, they thought it was complicated, and a lot of people had a lot of very strong opinions about it. To this day, it still confuses a ton of people, and there are a load that just won't use it because they're still confused by it. In this video, we're going to be taking a brief look at why the feature was so controversial. I feel like you probably have to when talking about the walrus operator, but I am going to spend most of the video talking about how it actually works and how it can be used. As once you get your head around it, it's really not that complicated at all, and it's actually really nice and convenient. And hopefully once you finish watching this video, you'll have a better understanding of how it works. Talking of better understanding, I've been getting just that with this video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes led by industry experts in fields like development, design, cooking, and more. Whether you're looking to add to your skills portfolio, take the next step in your career, or just wanting to learn something for fun, Skillshare has you covered. Now, as I said, Skillshare's classes cover a whole raft of topics. I've been learning a new language, I learned how to do those fancy transition animations you've been seeing recently, but I've been learning about something completely different lately. Photography. I've always had a passing interest in it and have been getting into it more seriously with some friends. And the Photography Essentials class by Sean Dalton has been helping me learn more about it. The class covers a bit of everything, from camera settings to composition, even getting into the editing of photos. I went on an outing recently and got some really neat ones, including this photo of a helicopter completely stationary in the air. You need a really high shutter speed to achieve that. You can also see how with just a little bit of editing, you can turn photos like this, which looked a little bit washed out, into one that's full of colour, and it's actually one of my favourites of the entire trip. I'm keen to learn more and get even better pictures on my next outing. The first 500 people to use my link in the description below get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So if there's anything you've been meaning to get a better understanding of, this is the time to do it. You know what they say, there's no time like the present, apart from after this video. That's the best time to do it, I think. Speaking of this video, is the walrus operator really that confusing? I think not. Let's see why. So with any video about the walrus operator, it's effectively obligatory that we talk about why it's so controversial. If you don't want to hear about that, or you already know why, I will have timestamps in the description for you to just skip to the explainer part, because that'll be most of the video. This will be brief. But it really did cause a lot of drama for something that is really a very minor syntactic change to the language, and one that you can quite easily just avoid if you don't want to use it. Now, people's objections to the feature tended to come down to the fact that they didn't see it as Pythonic. So they didn't see it as that readable, that simple. It wasn't the one obvious way as it reads in the Zen of Python. A lot of people were asking, why does this need to be in the language at all? It doesn't help the fact that the initial implementation supposedly had a number of quite major issues, and a lot of those initial problems continued to be used to oppose the feature later on in its development. However, most of the controversy really came outside of the feature itself, in Guido van Rossum's resignation as Python's BDFL. Now, this stands for Benevolent Dictator for Life, which was kind of a jokey name for the man with the last word, basically. So with any major Python change, he ultimately made the final decision on whether something was included or not, and if it was included, how it would be implemented. Although, of course, a lot of the time these decisions were made by the core development team, and Guido just approved or rejected them. Now, this also span up a lot of rumours about him leaving the language completely, which is not true. Him resigning as BDFL simply because of the walrus operator, which is also not true. But in reality, it was really more just the straw that broke the camel's back. He'd already been thinking about potentially stepping down for some time and had some health issues going along the side. And then when the walrus operator was accepted, there were a lot of comments made on social media, including from the core development team, that he was personally hurt by. And so following all this, he just made the decision to step down as the BDFL, but continues to work on Python today. What also still runs today are arguments and debates as to whether or not the walrus operator was a good inclusion. And in many ways, it's kind of crazy to think that so much drama and so much discussion could be created with a colon and an equal sign. There are still a number of people that get really confused about how to use the walrus operator, and this video is for those people. And to show off how it works and to explain it, I'm going to be using some pretty simple examples about where you would want to use them, where you could use them, and perhaps where you need to think a little bit more about where you use them. So if we define, say, a list of fruits, that's just apple, banana, and cherry, say. And then say we wanted to check if this list of fruits actually had a length. Of course, in this case, it always will, but let's say it was dynamic. And if it did have a length, print the length out. So we could do this using if len fruits, print, and then you have len fruits, fruits, there we go, fruits, like that. Now this works just fine, but you'll notice that we are calculating the length of this list twice, which is not ideal. It's not very efficient. It works. In this case, it probably won't make much of a difference, but it's not particularly efficient. So instead, we can define our list of elements or the number of elements using this. And then we can do elements here. And now we only perform the calculation once, but we've added an extra line of code to do so. Now, there will be people that say this is fine, and there will be people that say this is suboptimal. I wish there was a better way to do this. And this is where a lot of the controversies came from, because it was more just a difference of opinion here. But if you are in the camp that would prefer to see this on one line, then the walrus operator lets you do that, because instead of doing this, you can do this instead. And now you have created the variable elements and performed the calculation within the single statement. And this is what the walrus operator allows you to do. It allows you to assign values to variables within statements. You can read this as a sentence like so. If elements which has the value of len fruits, then do this. So where this operator is, len fruits will be calculated. It will then be assigned to elements within the statement. And then you can use elements anywhere. So you could use it here, or you can use it out here as well. And if we run py_fruits to look at that, we can see you have 3 fruits, and then you can have 3 here as well. There were discussions regarding whether or not these variables should be deleted once the scope has been exited, so once we're outside this block, but it was ultimately decided that they weren't going to do that. And that was largely due to the drawbacks of the complexities of the situation outweighing the benefits that it would provide. The benefits of the walrus operator are more obvious when you look at situations where there are 2 variables at play. So here we have pattern 1 and pattern 2. These are just regular expressions. You don't need to worry about the exact nature of them here. That's not important. They're just placeholder or example usage. And then we have this match 1, which then queries the pattern to see if this string matches it. And if it does, then it sets the result to match1.group1. Fine. If it doesn't, it then creates this second match, or it checks against this second pattern. And then if there is a match on this second pattern, then we set the result to this. If there isn't a match on this second pattern or the first one, we set the result to none. And you'll notice that this code is not the prettiest in the world. There's a lot of nesting going on here. There's nested if-else statements. It doesn't look very nice. One way you can get around this is by actually moving this up here and then turning this into an elif and then unindenting all this to have just a single if, elif, and else statement here, which looks a lot nicer, but we are also getting the second match even if the first one is fine, because we get the first one, we get the second one, and then we start checking. And this has performance implications. And again, this is where walrus operators can come in useful, because instead of doing this, we can assign to here like that. Instead of doing this, we can assign to here like that. We can get rid of this. And now we have this single if, elif, and else statement here. We don't have any ridiculous nesting, but we are also only checking pattern 2 when we need to. So if match 1 is true, it won't actually run this bit of the code at all. And so this pattern 2.match will never be run. So now we've gotten rid of all the nesting and we've improved the performance of the application. There are situations where you do need to be careful about your usage of walrus operators. The first of which is using them on the top level or in tuples. So as you said before, you can't use the walrus operator on the top level without it being in brackets. You wouldn't really ever want to. It's just not something you would need to do, but that's something to keep in mind. but also if you were to use them in a tuple, say if you had x equals 1 and 2, and then you had y, and then you used the assignment operator like this, you might look at this and think that this tuple of 1 and 2 is getting assigned to y, right? Well, if we were to print, and I'm actually going to copy paste my notes here, if we were to print the values of each, we would see that they come up with different values entirely. So here we have the left hand side, which is x, and the right hand side, which is this 1 and 2. However, in this tuple, we have this y, which is being assigned to 1, and then this tuple also just has another element of 2. And so y gets assigned to 1, and x gets assigned the full tuple. And this is because you can use the walrus operator within tuples to assign values to variables. I doubt this is going to come up an awful lot, but I did want to talk about that because that is a little bit of a gotcha. The other thing you need to keep in mind is the order of operations with regard to walrus operator. So if we had a equals 2 and b equals 4, and let's say we wanted to set a value of c, which was a plus b, but we also wanted to check that this value was greater than another value. And to keep it all on one line, let's say we wanted to use the walrus operator. So we could set if c, which is a plus b, and then say we wanted to check if c was greater than 5, we can then print c from this, and we'll see that instead of 6 like we would expect, we get true. And that's because of the order of operations that's happening here. So we have a plus b, which is getting evaluated first, and then this is getting checked against this. So we have 6 is greater than 5, that equals true, and all of this is getting assigned to c here. So the current order of operations is effectively that, which is not what we wanted. We wanted instead to do this. So we wanted to set c to be equal to a plus b, and then we wanted to check if all this is greater than 5. And now, if you run that, we get 6 as we'd expect. This is definitely something to watch out for and something I have run into a few times, so you do need to be careful if you're doing this. Alternatively, if you're not confident working out the order of operations, or you think that's too difficult to read, then you can just define C on another line of code and do it without the walrus operator. Ultimately, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a minor syntactic thing and one you can very easily avoid if you don't like it. But hopefully now you've watched this video, you understand at least how it works. So even if you choose not to use it yourself, you'll be able to more confidently read code that does choose to use it. If you like the video at any point, then make sure to leave a like to let me know. I'd really appreciate it. And maybe subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. If you have any questions or comments, then feel free to leave them in the comment section below as well. If you want to see all the other ways that Python is awesome, or if you don't like the walrus operator, see ways that Python is actually awesome, then you can check out the Python is awesome playlist by clicking on the end card. I'll see you in the next one for whatever we do next.